The 144 pounds mistake that built a 40 pounds million empire in his first year as a farmer. Jeremy Clarkson made 144 pounds in profit. 144 pounds. From 1,000 acres of prime Cotswold land. Most people watched that number and laughed. A washed-up TV presenter, playing farmer for the cameras, losing money on potatoes while everyone else got the joke. But here's the question nobody on YouTube is actually answering. If the farm was such a disaster, why did Clarkson never sell it? Why did he double down? A pub, a brewery, a shop, 4 more seasons of cameras rolling. Because 144 pounds was never the point. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly what was. The real reason he bought it. Rewind to 2008. Lehman Brothers has just collapsed. The financial world is in free fall, bankers are panicking, and nobody sensible is putting money into anything risky. So naturally, Clarkson spent £6 million on Cotswold farmland. On the surface, that looks insane. Underneath, it's one of the smartest tax moves available to a wealthy person in Britain. There's a rule called agricultural property relief. If land is farmed commercially, it passes to your children completely free of inheritance tax. No 40% bill when you die. Nothing. It's quietly known as the last great loophole left for landowners in this country. So while his celebrity peers were funding pensions through residuals and book deals, Clarkson was parking £6 million somewhere it would grow steadily, and somewhere the government could never touch it when he passed it on. That land is now valued at somewhere between £12 and £13 million. He's doubled his money without selling a single potato, a single pint, or a single jar of honey. This is the part most explanations skip past too quickly. The farming losses everyone laughs at don't actually threaten the bottom line. They're a rounding error sitting next to a tax-free, appreciating, multi-million-pound asset. Who's actually paying for this? But here's where most videos stop, and where the real story actually starts. A 1,000-acre farm that loses money every single year should be bleeding Clarkson dry. It isn't. So why not? Because the farm was never really the business. The show is the business. The farm is just the set it happens to be filmed on. Amazon reportedly pays Clarkson somewhere in the region of £10 to £12 million a year across his television commitments. Every flooded field, every broken tractor, every shouting match with the local council, none of that is a cost on a balance sheet. It's footage. It's the product itself. Sit with what that actually means. A normal farmer who loses a harvest just loses money, full stop. When Clarkson loses a harvest, he loses money on paper and gets paid millions to film himself losing it. The failure isn't a side effect of the business. The failure is the most valuable thing the business produces. That's not a television show about a farm. That's a content engine, wearing a farmer's jacket, getting rained on for our entertainment. The accident that wasn't really an accident. Now here's a part of the story that gets retold wrong almost everywhere you look. When Clarkson grew 40 tons of potatoes and discovered no supermarket would touch them from an unknown supplier, he stuck a shed in a field and started selling them himself. The internet loves calling this a happy accident. It wasn't really, or at least it stopped being one almost immediately. Within a single year, that shed went from £44,000 in assets to £1.34 million. People weren't driving from London and Manchester for vegetables. They were driving for an experience, to physically step inside a story they'd already watched, for free, on their own screens. That's the detail worth sitting with. The farm shop didn't succeed because the produce was exceptional. It succeeded because television had already done years of marketing for free, long before a single paying customer ever walked through that door. If you're building anything right now, a brand, a channel, a small business of your own, that's the actual transferable lesson hiding in this story. We'll come back to exactly how at the end, the council thought they were winning. Here's the part that should genuinely make you rethink the entire show. West Oxfordshire Council fought Clarkson for years. They blocked his car park, they shut down his restaurant, they issued enforcement notices on a farm track. Viewers were furious on his behalf. Petitions got signed, questions got asked in the press about British planning law. But Clarkson later admitted, quite plainly, that a farming friend told him early on that fighting for planning permission would make brilliant television. Every refusal became an episode, every defeat became next week's content. So ask yourself honestly who actually won that fight. The council believed it was protecting the Cotswolds. What it was actually doing was producing free, dramatic, multi-season storylines that no marketing department could ever buy with real money. And it's still happening right now. His 2023 planning win was only granted for 3 years, which means in 2026 the entire battle starts over again, on camera, on schedule, like clockwork. Here's the part almost nobody says out loud. Clarkson doesn't want to win permanently. A permanent win ends the story. He needs the fight to keep going, season after season. The Barley that became a beer empire, in season 2, his barley failed to meet brewing standards. Another disaster, on paper, except it quietly became Hawkstone Brewery. By early 2025, Hawkstone had posted £21.3 million in sales, nearly tripling the previous year's £7.8 million. That's 134% growth in a single year. It's now stocked in Waitrose, Morrison's, Sainsbury's, and over 2,000 pubs across the country. Here's the detail that actually matters. Unlike most celebrity drinks, which are just a famous face licensed onto a contract-manufactured product, Hawkstone is genuinely tied to a real farm that millions of people have watched, season after season. The connection isn't a marketing slogan. It's 3 years of television people already trust. They're not really buying a lager. They're buying into a story they were emotionally invested in long before they ever picked up a can. The pub built to lose money. Clarkson spent £1 million on a pub that serves only British produce. No foreign ketchup, no imported beef, nothing with what he calls a foreign passport. It employs 146 people. And by his own admission, it turns roughly £100 into £94. Most pub owners would call that a catastrophe. Clarkson calls it a strategy because the pub was never meant to profit from food in the first place. It exists to generate press coverage, to give the show another filming location Amazon will happily pay to use, and to sell enormous volumes of his own beer and cider, where he keeps every single penny of profit, because he owns the brewery outright. The food is the loss leader. The beer is the actual profit center. The whole pub is theater with a liquor license, the real takeaway. So let's go back to that £144. It was never a failure. It was the opening scene of a story that became a £12.5 million farm, a £21 million brewery, a thriving shop, national press coverage, and an audience that now genuinely cares about British farming policy, because one man made them watch it for years. Clarkson didn't accidentally succeed at business while failing at farming. He understood something most people completely miss. Failure, filmed honestly, is more valuable than success that's carefully managed. And a story people believe in will always outlearn a product they're simply sold. That's the real lesson sitting underneath every flooded field and broken tractor at Diddley Squat. The question isn't really whether Clarkson is a genius or just lucky. The real question is, how much of your own failure could you be turning into a story, if you were brave enough to actually film it? If this gave you a sharper way of seeing it, subscribe. We break stories like this down every week.